Goes Live. I'm Joe Briggs here, sitting here on this lovely Wednesday late autumn evening, and I have in the house here Eric Woods and Eric Spofford. Eric Spofford is on the far right over there. He is the owner of Granite House, a sober living community in Manchester and in Derry, 2 locations. And Eric Woods is the president of Oxford House. I might have got that title wrong, of Oxford House, a non-profit sober house in Manchester. Welcome to the show, both of you. Appreciate you for coming in here. But first of all, Eric Woods, tell me just in aggregate what both of you are trying to do. And then we'll talk about the details of your individual organizations.
Well, what we are is I'm a sober house for transitional living. And this is for people who have actually got a little bit of recovery time under their belt. And what they do at that point is that they'll come to me. We screen them for application. And there's no time limit to stay at my house, but there's also, it's a non-structured environment.
Yep.
There are basic rules. Now, prior to coming to my house, you would go to someplace like the Granite House, which is Eric.
Yep.
And you'll explain that here quickly.
Yep.
Go ahead. We're just
go
ahead.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
you're in the middle of it. So
Yeah.
go ahead, tell us about your house, Granite House.
The Granite House is located in 2 locations, in Derry and Manchester, New Hampshire. I founded it, me and my father founded it 14 months ago. We started the first location in Derry. And what it is it's a highly structured environment for men in early recovery for drug addiction and alcoholism. A lot of times we get guys who come out of a medical detox facility or a residential treatment program.
So, first of all, how did you get involved in this? Was your father or you or both abusive of alcohol at one time? Is it just something that you thought was a great idea? How'd you guys get involved? I mean, historically, you're kind of a customer before you get into the business.
Yeah, no, I started shooting heroin when I was 15 years old, and I sobered up after 6 years of misery when I was 21.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, which is a pretty big epidemic, especially here in New Hampshire.
Really?
The opiate abuse, absolutely.
Is it?
Yeah.
I guess I live in an isolated world that I hope I
Yeah.
never have to come face
It's
to
kind
face
of right
with.
under everybody's noses.
So
Yeah.
now, how does your father get involved? I mean, is it something that you both started this together because he wanted to help you out, or?
Because he also has a spirit of helping out other addicts, and he saw what I came from and what I started to become and how well I was doing. And, the real altruistic movement of you can't keep it unless you give it away.
How old are you right now?
24.
So for 3 years you've been clean and sober?
Yes.
No issues at all?
No.
So now you've opened 2 houses, and did you open that with your own money, or did the government or the local
Privately
agencies?
funded.
Privately funded.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about how you started that, because I know Eric's story a little bit,
Yeah,
but I want to hear a little.
absolutely.
Eric Woods is over here on my left, or over near me, and you're Eric's.
I'm Eric Spofford.
Right, and I want to hear a little bit about how you get yourself into you buy a couple of homes. How big are the homes? How many people are in them? And how do people know to come to you?
People know to come to us because they normally get referred by detox programs or residential treatment centers once they do check in. Also, a lot of people find me on the internet. A lot of times I get calls from people who find me on the internet, and it's the loved one, the father, the mother, the husband, the wife of the drug addict. And, this guy's messed up. What do we do?
What's that website again?
Is www.granite, GRANITE, housesl.com.
GraniteHouseSL.com.
Yep, Granite House SL.
Now, if somebody was searching for, they'd say, listen, I need a detoxification, sobering, sobriety, and then your house would, your link would pop up? I mean,
I don't know
how they get there, but they find you.
How quick it would get up there, because that costs some money for advertising.
No, but I'm saying when you're doing a search, your website
Yeah, I'm linked to
pops
other
up.
websites.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how they find me, but they find me.
We're actually linked in. Yeah, you'll find links. If you just put recovery and Googled it, you'll find a multitude of different sites. And then as you keep hitting these sites, there'll be different links. because there's very specific, different, specific areas of this. There's detox, there's inpatient treatment, and there's halfway houses, and then there's transitional living. Of course, the reason I wanted Eric to actually explain himself first was that I get referrals from Eric. Now, people can actually go to his structured environment right out of detox. And he has this thing entirely set up to introduce the tools these people are going to need in order to survive in a sober, clean environment afterwards. At that point, you come into the transitional living phase. We have rules. The rules are very simple. You must stay clean and sober, and you participate in house activities, including house meetings, and you pay your fair share. Now, the transitional living, we're not subsidized by anybody. We're self-funded once again. I would like to just bring up a little bit of just a brief, quick history of what Oxford House is.
Before you do that, just pull that mic a little bit closer to you, if you would.
Before you do, I want people to know that you're a nurse by trade.
I'm a registered nurse by
registered
profession.
nurse by
Yes.
profession, and you've been one for a long time.
Quite a few years.
How many years
yes.
now?
Since the early 90s.
Right. So you have a very caring personality. You had your own issues.
I try to think so, yes.
Yeah, you have your own issues that you had in the past.
I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict myself.
There you go. And then you decided to get involved in this issue. And I tell you, I've been to the house, and I went to the Terrell house, and you can literally eat off the floors. These guys that come in there are in a very strict environment and take it very seriously. I just want to put that out there to start.
Absolutely.
Where's the address of your home?
I'm located on Pine Street.
Yeah.
The actual address is 609 Pine Street.
Right.
And the cross street would be Brook Street.
Right.
And we're actually known as Oxford Northbrook. Now, Oxford House itself, we're under the umbrella organization of Oxford Incorporated, which is out of Silver Springs, Maryland. Oxford Incorporated started as a result of a halfway house in Silver Springs, Maryland, that was closing. And a group of guys got together, pooled their resources, and opened up their own house. And that was the first house. Within 10 years, 20 more houses around the Washington area had opened. After 1988, Ronald Reagan passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act. At that point, Oxford proliferated into over 500 houses nationwide. Today, there's over 1,200 houses active nationwide. Now, each of these houses is independent and autonomous upon themselves, but they go under the Oxford principles. We're given guidelines how to run this house, and we just follow those guidelines. Once again, you must remain clean and sober. We democratically run the house, and it's self-supporting. So everybody pays their fair share.
So if there's 6 guys living in your house, the rent is a certain price that's split by 6 people. The cost of the utilities is split by 6
Correct.
people. The food they bring in on their own, or
We supply the food.
You supply the wow.
Yes.
You supply the food.
Yeah, we manage our money quite well.
And does everybody have a job?
Yes.
And if they don't have a job,
You could be on disability or Social Security.
right.
But the ideal person who actually comes to us at Oxford House would be coming from a halfway house or a 28-day inpatient recovery program. Because what this is your opportunity to live without boundaries in the community itself within a safe area. In other words, we can guarantee within our 4 walls is a safe environment.
Nobody's bringing home a 6-pack at the end of the night.
Absolutely not.
Nobody's bringing in a joint. You don't have the
Not a
pressure.
bit.
What about television? Watching television, do you stay away from certain shows, or is there any influence from that?
Well, once again, and what I propose in our situation, there's no restrictions. Okay. You learn to live in society as a clean and sober individual. There's all these temptations and all these things are going to be out there. What we do is we supply that secure environment for you. And once again, you have a group of men with like-minded ideas, which are all based on 12 steps of recovery.
You got a question?
I got one real quick question for Eric Spofford. Eric,
Sure.
is there any consistency, demographic, economic, otherwise, of kids who are 15 years old and would find themselves shooting up with heroin?
I mean,
Is there a stereotype? Is it?
Yeah.
I come from a great home. My father's self-employed.
Yeah.
He owns a tree removal and excavation company. I mean, I had everything I needed growing up. I grew up right here in Salem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you had a good life.
At the age of 15, I could find a
what
bag of heroin quicker than I could alcohol.
What caused you to put that needle in your arm the first time?
Hanging out with older kids, it was widely available. I mean, I lost my first friend to a heroin overdose when I was 15.
Wow.
Yeah,
And then-
absolutely. It was easier to get then than it would be to find someone 21 or older to buy me booze.
Now, how is availability of last question? How is availability of heroin compared to, say, marijuana? Are they the same?
Depending on what social structure you run in, but just about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes even easier.
Let me ask you now. You're 21 years old when you say, "Okay, I'm done with this," and you whatever
Yeah.
you
Well,
make that decision.
It's a little more dramatic.
You're only
than
20.
That, but
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, it was a major. All right. Well, we don't need to get into that, but we'll have you back. You're 24 years old today. What do
Yeah.
you have to have for training, or what do you have to have for? I don't know. To be able to just open up a house and invite people in. I mean, is there no requirements on you by the government? Do you not need to go through any special permit process or anything?
No.
It's just
Not at all.
a rooming
I mean,
house.
We comply with zoning, but yeah,
Right.
that's it.
So and just like that,
It's my own experience. Some people can go to college and get an education in, the treatment of drug addiction and alcoholism, but until you sit in an alleyway in Lawrence and shoot a bag of heroin with puddle water, you don't know where I'm coming from.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I see
So
what
my
you're
own
saying.
experience of having been there and then marching right the hell out of it.
Are you actually present in both of those houses on a daily basis?
Yes.
So
they
you're
have
going.
house managers that facilitate and supervise day-to-day stuff, and I'm there at both locations every day.
Is your house more in tune with drug addiction? As Eric, I think yours is more alcohol, or
all
is
the
it
same.
anything?
It's all the same.
All the same.
Drug
All the
is a
same.
drug is a drug.
Okay.
How many? What percentage of your residents have been in a federal penitentiary?
Or even a state or
Yeah.
a county jail.
Yeah. Have been incarcerated.
100%.
Really. And
Goes
what
hand-
was that?
It almost goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Alcoholism, drug abuse, criminal activity.
Yeah. Given your experiences collectively, is incarceration an effective way of dealing with the consequences of drug abuse? I mean, as a
Absolutely.
consequence, is it an effective way of dealing with?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Incarceration, simply, you're going to take, someone who tripped and fell into a little case of drug addiction, who has the potential to get well, incarcerate them, and you just put them into criminal college.
Exactly.
Really, I go to jail, I start getting mixed up in the legal system. I come out with bigger and better connections and a bigger education on how to do scores and commit crime. That's all that happens.
Keep in
It
mind.
exacerbates the problem.
And what people don't understand, the misunderstanding around drug addiction is, by society, is that if I build up enough consequences for these drug addicts, they'll stop doing what they're doing because their symptoms of their drug addiction offends us as being society. The theft, the destruction, What they don't understand is the concept around drug addiction, which is powerlessness. These people aren't making the choices. The choices are making them. And they don't have a way out. They need a way out. So if we can provide more avenues for them to get out, if the recovery movement can be more widely available to guys, especially in the penal system. I don't know what percentage it is about the people in the court systems that are drug addicted.
But are these people are they put in jail? Is the reason that they go to jail because they've been caught with heroin, or because of a crime related to trying to get the money for heroin? And is that
It's
crime
both, but
violent, or is
it's
it just
both? But what's the difference?
There's no difference. Yeah.
You see, a drug addict's life consists of get the money, get the drugs, do the drugs. Get the money, get the drugs, do the drugs. It's a never-ending cycle. So
Is it
depends
frequently
on
a violent crime, or is it usually just petty
It's never
theft?
violent. A drug addict, the perfect day for a drug addict is to hide in a basement and get high. They don't want to be out.
They don't want confrontation.
They avoid it at all costs.
Is the thought process that if a person is incarcerated, they're basically forced to detox? A good or bad argument, or not an argument that can be mean-
detox is just the beginning. You
Okay.
get these people off the drugs, that's great,
Yeah.
but they're still left with the core symptoms of drug addiction and alcoholism, which is the mind and the spirit, which they'll suffer from sober. You see, the misconception is that the heroin, the cocaine, the crack, the booze is the disease. They are the solution and the symptoms of the disease. You separate a drug addict from heroin or whatever their thing is, and they're still left with a sick mind and a sick spirit.
And that's where the
that's
recovery
where we
process
come
comes
in.
in.
That's
Okay,
what I
so
do.
let's talk about
See?
the recovery process, because what does it take in a person's mind? Now, you guys have seen this firsthand. Where does somebody? Okay, is it just okay? I want to get help, and that decision that I want to get help, and acknowledging that they have a problem, that literally is the first step.
That is the first step. For myself,
So when you get,
I had it was the gift of desperation. I was desperate to do something different, and that's what changed my mind to change my life.
so the handcuff and the throwing in the jail and then bringing you to the court system is not the step hasn't created in their mind. Okay, I got to get help.
Temporary deterrent.
Okay, is it? But have you seen it shock people enough to the point where they go, okay, this is my moment where I know I want to change?
Really?
Rarely, but I'm sure some do.
Right.
For myself, I got clean and sober actually November of 2005. And what I actually claim as my sobriety date is April 24th, 2006. And I have my reasons for the 6 months. But I was incarcerated at that time, and it was the second time I was incarcerated in a state prison. And I had lost my profession, I had lost my family, I lost everybody in my life, and then I lost myself too. So when I actually found myself in this prison system again, I was desperate at that point. So yes, the prison system changed my mind at that point. I realized how much I had actually damaged my life, and therefore I wanted to change it. And I systematically set myself up with a plan on how I could change this. And of course, going through 12-step recovery groups is the beginning. Mm-hmm. And
Have you ever been confronted by either state or federal politician looking to consult with you about the creation of laws or adaptation of laws with respect to incarceration, mandatory jail times, mandatory sentencing, and so forth? Has any of these, crime fighter politicians ever knocked on your door to get a sense of the effectivity, the likely effectivity of any proposed legislation?
not at this point.
No, not yet. but
Would
I'd love
would
to.
it be
We would
beneficial if
welcome
they
that.
did?
Absolutely.
We would
Yes,
welcome
What would you tell
absolutely.
them? What would you tell them?
I tell them a lot of things.
What are the top?
A lot of them are watching right now. Believe it or not.
Beautiful,
They're-
good.
and
Go to my website. My email address is on there, and contact me, and we'll break
Well,
bread and
give
talk
us
shop
give,
again.
give
Love
us
to talk to
give
you.
us the
the
top one or two
recovery.
things.
I mean, it's costing people more money to put these people in prison and making worse people out of it.
Yeah.
You see, whereas if we, all the money you throw at a state prison, when I don't know what percentage, but it's huge. It's over 50% of those people are in there for drug-related crimes.
right.
Give us some of that budget. Let us design, a giant recovery house. Let us do something to try and rehabilitate these people.
Do you have anything that
know?
would quantitatively suggest that one is more beneficial than the other?
I could. I could actually knock it down in a few simple steps. Number one, you incarcerate somebody for a drug crime. I'm not sure of the cost, but I believe it's anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 per year. During that time of incarceration, they're not paying taxes, they're not paying child support, and they're receiving huge medical benefits, which isn't a bad thing because the prisoner probably needs those. Put this person in a recovery setting, and you have to show them A, B, C, D. You form the program for them, okay? Because you don't want them wondering, okay, now where do I go from here? And what you end up with at the final result, within months, you can end up with a somewhat of a productive person who's working and paying taxes, who's now starting to pay their child support, who's not being paid for by the state by incarceration, who is paying back the fines that they may owe, and eventually, let's just use a parameter of 1 year, you may end up with a law-abiding citizen, an actual productive member of society. And even if your ratio only came out to 1 out of 10, I believe the numbers are still going to go in favor of recovery as far as financial reasons.
You said 100% of all of your residents were.
Well, those crimes vary.
Okay. All right.
Those crimes would vary. Now, from
it,
DWI to robbery.
Okay, but is it the case that that the state mandates that every person who is incarcerated because of a drug-related issue must go through a house such as yours, or is it? I mean,
No,
what brings them to
This is
their?
totally voluntary.
Really?
Yeah. Once again, I would. Sometimes I actively recruit, and I promote my organization. But a lot of this is from word of mouth, from 12-step recovery programs, from therapeutic environments such as the Granite House. I could name others, but I don't know if I'm legally able to do that.
Yeah, you can do what
There's
you
the
want.
Farnham Center, which
Yep.
is a wonderful program right here, run by Easter Seals in Manchester. That's an actual 28-day inpatient program. There's a lot of caring, wonderful people there. There's the Serenity Place, used to be called Sobriety Maintenance. That's the actual detox. One of the things that may be happening in the future here is a medical detox, where Eric had talked about opiate addiction is actually a physical addiction. And there's a lot of other physical addictions out there, too, benzodiazepines, alcohol. Yeah. Some of these drugs can have, drugs and alcohol can have actual drastic effects coming down from the drug, the detox itself. It can be fatal in certain cases.
Your prescribed drugs can be very
Absolutely.
addictive. Don't forget about the ones that you
Never
find.
mind.
What's the
There's a lot of that
recidivism rate?
stuff
What's the
going on.
recidivism rate
Oh,
of people that
boy.
leave your respective programs?
What do you mean, like outcome results?
No, I mean people
many are
that
actually
leave your
successful?
program. How many of them find themselves slipping back?
You want to talk about an effective model. What we've built at the Granite House, and mind you, we've only been open 14 months, but from the guys that have come through our house, half are still sober, living on their own, paying taxes, employed. 50%.
And how long do they stay at your house?
Average length of stay, 6 to 9 months, sometimes less, sometimes
Okay,
more.
so you really don't have enough data.
32 guys.
Yeah.
32
Okay.
guys is the data we're working with.
Okay.
25% of those had a relapse. We continued to work with them. They are now sober as well. So once they came to us, you're talking about 75% of these guys are doing well now. They're paying taxes. If you bumped into them in Shaw's, you would never know they ever had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
What's the benefit to their productivity in society? Their post sobriety productivity, if they can avoid the prison experience, both the name
The
that goes
benefit
along
for
with
society
it.
itself?
Yeah, I mean, are these people?
It's just a simple matter of crunching numbers. First of all, you're not spending money for these people to be incarcerated.
Yeah.
You're not spending money for these people to go through a judicial process, requiring state-funded lawyers. You're not utilizing a lot of your police activity and police resources for something such as I'm not saying drugs are minor, but they may not be as a major offense as, say, an armed robbery, a murder, a rape, or some of your more horrendous crimes. But the benefit for society really is you produce a productive citizen, somebody who can give back to society itself. You think about those neighbors that you had growing up and how wonderful these people were, and as a kid maybe you used to like to go over and play with their kids, and your parents had the white picket fence. I mean, there's an idea here. And that's a very productive society right there. People are very happy. And this can happen. Now, whether this happens for everybody, that's hard to say. For myself...
But if you go to jail for a year, say that you're caught with DWI the 3 times, you go to jail for a year or whatever it is, and you get out and you go to one of these programs and get better. Does the experience of being incarcerated, does that affect you the rest of your life? Is there something? I mean, I've never been incarcerated, so I don't know. But what you see on TV or whatever, it doesn't look very good. Would that affect someone psychologically? Would that cower them? Would that
changed my personality
toughen them
for
up?
years?
Yeah,
It did.
yeah.
Not something you feel proud about, you want to brag about or talk about. I mean,
Absolutely
there's
not.
a stigma attached to it.
Well, yes, if you want to put it in that perspective, it does carry a stigma. It's very hard for somebody who's been incarcerated to go find a job. First of all, most job applications are going to ask for a criminal background check. And when you have a lack of jobs out there at this point in time, the employer actually has his pick of the litter. And, he's probably just going to shoo off those right there that say, yes, I've committed a crime, and go to the better of his choices.
Well, let me ask you the question. If you saw the resume of someone who indicated, or they shared with you that they had been to a halfway house and they're on the road to recovery, would you hire them? But what if also on there was the fact that they were in prison for 18 months?
No, it depends. Like Eric said, it's the economy. If it's 10% unemployment like it is now, I get the pick of the litter. If it's 1%, then I have to say, well, am I willing to give this guy a shot? And it's much worse in an economy like now.
That's just the way the world works, too, and you have to accept
Well,
that.
because you're a business owner who says, well, you committed a
Absolutely.
crime. It doesn't tell you what the crime is, so you're thinking, what is it, theft? Are you going to have somebody coming into a business where there's cash around all the time?
Yeah.
If you're a bar and you have somebody who's got an alcoholism issue or whatever, do you want them around? Do you want them around the alcohol? I mean, those are the considerations. So you end up with jobs that, the back of a kitchen, or in a warehouse, and those jobs don't make you more money to help you be a more productive member. It's a vicious circle is what it turns out to be.
You know what's very important to
10
me?
seconds. Go ahead. Go ahead. 10 seconds, though.
Okay. What's very important to me is having somebody meet me, get used to my personality, know me as a human being right now, and then have them form an opinion of me. And then, down the line, I will let them know. This is where I come from. I was incarcerated for 7 years in this New Hampshire state prison system. I had a horrendous drug and alcohol addiction problem. And I did bad things all the way around.
Right.
I mean,
But that's doing things in a perfect world on your terms. And once you've been to prison, things are rarely on your terms again.
No,
and I think
no.
that's the stigma. Eric Woods of Oxford House, a nonprofit sober house right here in Manchester.
Absolutely.
Eric Spofford, owner of Granite House, a sober living community, two homes, one in Manchester, one in Derry. We thank you so much for both of you coming in tonight.
Thank
We'd
you
like to
very
have
much
you
for
back
having
in.
us.
Very exciting discussion.
We could have had you on for another half an hour because it's very interesting what you guys had to talk about. We will have you back to discuss this further because people are interested in this. There's a lot of people out there who know somebody who has an issue, and we'll have you back because I've got a lot more questions for you. And I also
would
want
like
to talk
to help.
a lot about the Terrell House in Manchester
Right.
and how important that organization is.
We'll be right back with Dick
Absolutely.
Ananas to talk about River's Edge. We'll be right back.